Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Knight Gremlin, and today I would like to talk about the Blade Runner franchise. Might as well just get straight to the point, because recently I've watched Blade Runner 2049 a few times over just to get a good feel for this movie, to get accustomed to it and sort of recognize it for what it is. And so now I've collected my thoughts and I want to explain exactly what I think of this franchise and what they should do going forward in the future. So, first of all, I enjoyed the movie a lot. And to prove it, it was something that I was able to watch repeatedly and enjoy on the repeats. When you have a film that has high rewatch value, then that generally means that it is of good quality, and this applies very much so to Blade Runner 2049, because as I've stated earlier, I've watched it a few times over, and I've enjoyed it each and every time. This is not just some cheap sequel. This isn't a half-assed film. This is a legitimate Blade Runner entry into the series, into the franchise. However, that being said, I hope that this does not become a series. And I'm going to get into that into a little bit. But first of all, well, let's just say I enjoyed this film a whole hell of a lot better than Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And let's not open up that can of beans quite yet, but I think it's pretty apparent why. And I generally agree with the general audience when it comes to their opinion of the new Star Wars movie. I don't always agree with the general populace, but in this regard I do. However, before I ramble off about Star Wars, let's get back on track with Blade Runner. So, the original is the one and only classic. There's nothing that could top that one, nothing that could surpass it in any way, and I think that's a fact of nature. And the new one isn't as good as the original. However, it's the best thing that they could make as a sequel. As a follow-up, they did their best on it, and even though they couldn't make it as good as the original because it was practically impossible to do, they did the best that they could. And really, there's no flaws aside from the fact that it is an inherently different movie. So in that sense, it's good, which is it's a whole hell of a lot better than it could have been if they half-assed it or had the wrong people working on it and made it some cheap sci-fi. So in that regards, I love Blade Runner 2049. Now, multiple reasons. Even though stated it's not as good as the original, it is a good introduction of Blade Runner to modern moviegoers and to introduce people to this concept. And I think it's a good tool that sheds light back on the original film from 1982. I hope that they do not do any more. Now, I've stated a similar opinion with the Alien franchise because we've seen what happened. They started with a very good concept, but they went way overboard with it, making way too many movies. If they stopped with the second Alien movie, it would have been perfect. And I think the same concept applies to Blade Runner. We have the first film and the second film, and despite the time difference, they're both so similar, but not too similar. They're not too different, it's just right. And I think the second film wraps things up just perfectly. It answers a lot of questions that we had from the first film, but it doesn't completely answer the questions, because if you do that, it takes away the mystery. And some of the mystery that we have from the first film is what made us think, that put our heads to it. And so in that regard, I still enjoy the second film in relation to the first one. However, if they make a third one, a fourth one, etc., I think that would completely ruin all of that. And so they should leave it at this, because this is their high point, and they need to leave on a high point. They need to leave it at that. So, if they want to explore the universe, go into other forms of media. And that's really basically my opinion about it. And I just like the fact that it wasn't a complete copy of the first film. It was very atmospheric, and that's all about Blade Runner, but it wasn't a complete nighttime film, which works for it because we have some foggy atmosphere, we have some snow, but it was still film noir or neo-noir or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I had to address these films because, as you know, I'm a big Alien fan, and slightly connected to the Alien universe is the Blade Runner universe. So anyways, thank you for listening to this rambling in this video. I hope you have a good day, and take care.